9 students at Duke University are protesting 3 administrators and asking for them to resign from their positions after one of those administrators allegedly hit a parking attendant, a contracted parking attendant, with his car, and then allegedly used a racial slur to refer to her. Now, this incident took place a few years ago, and the incident is actually getting more, I guess it's evolving into a bigger deal. Let me give you the details on that. So on August 30th of 2014, before a football game, the executive vice president of Duke University hit a parking attendant with his car. Now, he's white, she's black. And she says he called her a stupid nigger as he drove away. Okay, so that's a big deal. And, you know, the more you read about Duke, the more you realize that racial tensions have played a huge role within the campus. It's referred to as the Duke Plantation because a lot of the low-level employees there are black. And there have been a number of incidents where parking attendants have had similar complaints against people working at Duke.
So I should just note that as I was going through this story, I got about halfway through, and then Anna and I were talking about something else and started talking about the story, and I literally expressed skepticism, like, really, he would say that to a parking attendant, right? That seems, I don't know, especially Duke's such a great college, to have somebody in such an important role there to say that to a party, I was incredulous. But as you read into the story, you realize, there's a good chance it's true.
Yes. Now, the administrator hit the parking attendant. Her name is Shelvia Underwood. And so she filed a report with campus police, but she said that she wouldn't file any criminal charges against him if he apologized for what happened. So he did apologize. So she has some evidence that he did what he did, and that's in the form of a letter. His name is Tallman Trask, and he wrote the following. Dear Miss Underwood, I very much regret the incident before the football game. I should have been more patient, and I apologize. Okay. Now, he's not specific there, and he admits that he hit her with his vehicle, but he does not admit that he used that racial slur.
But I want to make a very important clarification there, which swung me in this story, right? So first of all, his name is Tallman Trask III. Please, do the clap. Okay, no, but that's not the clarification. It's that he writes the note, and I read the note, and I thought, well, that doesn't really say that he hit her, let alone use the N-word. So, you know, maybe there was a misunderstanding there, and he's like, let me just apologize and get this out of the way. So at that point, I'm not necessarily against him, or I'm not convinced yet that he did those things. But when he was confronted, initially, he said, no, I didn't do either. I didn't hit her, and I didn't use that word. And then they showed him the note that he wrote, and he's like, okay, yeah, fine, I hit her, but I didn't use the word. Okay, well, now you've lost a lot of credibility.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Now, why is this story from a few years ago getting so much attention now? Well, last month, Underwood filed a $100,000 lawsuit in Durham County Superior Court against Trask, Duke's primary financial and administrative officer, accusing him of battery, negligence, civil conspiracy, and obstruction of justice. She also named Duke University in the lawsuit. Now, Renee Adkins, former special events manager for PTS, wrote an email to President Richard Broadhead on January 15th describing a culture of racism, harassment, retaliation, and bullying in the department fostered by PTS Director Carl DePinto and Vice President for Administration Kyle Kavanaugh. Now, all the people that have been named so far, the 3 administrators, are being asked to resign by these 9 students protesting at Duke University. The protest began last week, late last week, and it's continuing today. Administrators have said to them that they're willing to negotiate with the students if they promise to stop occupying the building. The building that they're occupying is, of course, disrupting classes. It's bothering students and staff. And so they're saying, look, there's no negotiating unless you guys stop occupying the building.
And they might eventually fine them or even arrest them.
Yeah.
So initially when they looked into this, Duke's Office of Institutional Equity said there was, quote, it did not produce sufficient evidence to confirm the racial slur word, right? Okay, but then when you look into what Renee Adkins charges, as Anna began to tell you, and how they're all connected to one another, then you go, oh, wait a minute. Okay, so now when you tell me these guys looked into it and said it's no big deal, but the guys who looked into it are the ones that are charged with years of unbelievable racism.
Yeah, it's
just charges, but it is significant, right?
It's an internal investigation, and we all know what happens with internal investigations, right? I mean, if you have a vested interest to make sure that investigation comes out squeaky clean, well, then it's going to come out squeaky clean. By the way, let's go to graphic 13, because I think that this kind of gives you a sense of the type of environment that some of these people have had to endure and why racial tensions exist on campus. So Atkins added that the event was one of innumerable incidents in which she and members of her staff were called the N-word, coon, porch monkey, bull, dagger.
Never even heard that one.
Yeah, me either. And dyke while working Duke special events. These occurrences were all swept under the rug by administrators, Atkins wrote.
Okay, so now this is very important. One of the guys that Anna mentioned, Kavanaugh, he oversaw the investigation for Duke University Police Department. Kavanaugh reports to Trask. Come on, wait a minute. He's investigating his boss, and he's part of the people that are being charged with running a department where the N-word is used endlessly for years on end, let alone all these other words, so many different words. I haven't even heard of some of them, right? Mm-hmm. And so that guy comes out and goes, oh, no, my boss is totally innocent. Don't worry about it. Let's move on. Okay, and I'm also innocent, and so let's all wrap this up.
Yeah.
So now you can begin to see why the students are pissed and they're protesting. And after all these stories, I'm still naive, and I still think, like, really? That level administrator at Duke would call a parking attendant the N-word? That seems unbelievable to me, right? But it turns out, look at all the unbelievable things that have been happening among the workers there, whether it's the cops or the parking attendants, etc., where they're routinely called what porchman? What the hell? In this day and age.
And this is not from the testimony of one person, right? There are several people who work in these lower level jobs at Duke University who have come forward and they've shared their stories of being disenfranchised by administrators and other employees there. So if it's one person alleging something, I could see how someone would be like, I don't know, there's no evidence, is this true? But when you have dozens of people coming forward and saying that they've experienced these types of racial slurs, well, then you do need an investigation and not an internal one. You need an independent investigation to make sure that students, employees, anyone on campus doesn't feel like they're being discriminated against.
I think even after all this, Anna, you and I still don't understand the level of racism that exists in some pockets of this country, or a lot of pockets of this country. The fact that they think it's no big deal to call their coworker